so excited because I just finished the third book in Pierce Brown's science fiction, dystopian, intergalactic war zone trilogy. There are 3 more books after this one, but it's known as the Red Rising series. So we have Red Rising, Golden Sun, and then Morning Star. And then there are 3 books that follow that. So I have the whole series on my shelf, but I finally finished Morning Star, and it's a pretty thick book. It was 524 pages. I read most of it on my Kindle, so I really enjoyed this book. I think it was one of my favorite ones. Red Rising was amazing. It completely blew my mind at the beginning of the story. The characters are pretty much like these miners in a dangerous situation, and then all of a sudden you're opened up to this entire intergalactic world or universe, and our characters completely transformed into the godlike characters, which are called golds. He's what's called a low color, which is a red, and so his job is to kind of be this spy for the reds to infiltrate the golds in society. So they're overall the other colors in society. So in the third book, we're following as Darrow is who the main character is. Darrow has created this full-blown war that he initially was starting to bring forth in book 1, and then especially in book 2, and then book 3 is kind of how does this war play out. And let me just tell you, this book is packed with action. It has a lot of emotion. Even though there's a lot of action and gore and violence, the writing in it is actually really beautiful, which is kind of ironic because you have this death, destruction, violence, and blood and all this stuff on the side, but then you realize that your characters are fighting for their family, for their friends. They're very loyal, or either their betrayals. It's very gritty, but also in this beautiful way. Pierce Brown has such a way with words. He has a lot to say. I mean, every single book is definitely thick and hard to get through, but it's definitely worth it in the end. I'm not much of a science fiction fan, to be honest with you, but I think that I am now after reading this book. I hadn't really given the science fiction genre a huge chance, but now that I've read Skyward, which is a young adult series by Brandon Sanderson, that really got me into the science fiction genre. And now I've read these 3 books from Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I'm definitely thinking that this is a genre that I can really get attached to and enjoy. Honestly, there's not really a genre that I don't like, to be honest. I've really obviously enjoyed Stephen King and some horror. I'm starting to get a little bit into mystery and thriller with Riley Sager and Frida McFadden and Lisa Jewell. And then now I'm starting to read a lot of fantasy and science fiction. I've dabbled very briefly in historical fiction. I would say that literary fiction and historical fiction I'm not as excited about because I feel like it's just a retelling of normal day-to-day life. And there's just something about books where I want to escape that. So I would say that those are probably the genres that aren't as exciting to me, but not saying I won't read them. It's just typical that I more gravitate towards something that's either the thriller has that suspense that you want to keep reading to find out what's going to happen. Fantasy and sci-fi has the action and the magical elements that go beyond our real world. And of course, the horror just scares the pants off you. So overall, I would highly recommend, if you are already a seasoned reader, I would recommend this series. If you're just starting off getting into reading, I think that this is going to overwhelm you, unless it just somehow sweeps you off your feet. But I would recommend this to people who are maybe already seasoned readers, and especially if you're science fiction fans, that this series is going to completely captivate you and sweep you off your feet. The characters are also very realistic and engaging. You're going to want to get really attached to them, but be careful. Pierce Brown is not afraid to kill to you that he does have no fear in that aspect. So amazing characters, amazing plot. I would say that this one, I don't know if Red Rising or Morning Star is my favorite. Golden Sun was not really amazing to me. I'm not really sure. I feel like there was a lot more space battles with the ships instead of more like intimate battles between characters and a journey. And we see that a lot more with Morning Star than I felt like we did in Golden Sun. And it really dragged for me, but this book did not drag at all. I couldn't put it down, and I was highly invested in the characters were changing, were growing, and there was a plot twists. There were plot twists in Golden Sun and Red Rising too. And then the end of this story was such a heartbreaker in a good way. And I just can't wait to continue the series. I think I'm going to take a little break just because it's very heavy to read, takes a long time, and it's something that I want to process for a while before I continue the series, but I definitely plan to finish, probably just not at this moment in time. And after reading that, right now I decided to take a little break from the heavy fantasy. I had read Defiant by Brandon Sanderson, which was science fiction, and this. So right now I'm reading a Mary Kate Andrews book. I've never read a book by her before, but one of my friends recommended this, and it's called The Homewreckers, and it says love, murder, and faulty wiring. So it's actually about a girl and then her sister-in-law who flip houses, and she's in some trouble because of money issues and kind of putting too much at risk. And this TV series wants to televise everything that she does, and there's also a murder mystery going on in the background too that has to do with the house that they're renovating. So it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of different aspects of the story. It's not just about a murder mystery and like a detective. There's, the building the house, the drama with the TV series, some different romance going on. The characters have a rich backstory. She's actually a widow, and so there's that pain in that situation. And then, of course, there's the murder mystery and our main character trying to figure out what's going on with the house that she bought. There's just all this bad stuff that's happening that's a little bit suspicious. So that's the book I'm currently reading right now, and I'm having a lot better time in December already than my reading in November, because I feel like every book that I read was just like a 2 or 3 stars. Like I read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, and I really didn't like that book. And then I read Station 11, which is supposed to be just like everyone really likes it, and I didn't like it. And then I read Midnight is the Darkest Hour, which kind of felt like Twilight meets the town where the story Carrie takes place, because there was religious nuts and then a guy who was vampiric. It was kind of strange. And the only book I really enjoyed in November was Defiant. And then Iron Flame came out in November, and that was kind of a downfall for me too, because I didn't enjoy it like I did the first book, Fourth Wing, which very surprised me. But I really didn't like the relationship between our main characters. I felt like it was very childish and immature, but then when you think about how old our characters are supposed to be, like 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there, I mean, it makes sense, but this is supposed to be adult fantasy, adult romantasy, and it just really read like a young adult novel for me. So it wasn't my favorite, but it was 600 pages. 600 pages. And when you have so much hype, and in the book 600 pages, and you're dragging your feet through the second half of the story for 300 pages, it wears you out and just kind of makes you a bit frustrated. So far, December, I'm having a lot better luck. I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.